Hi, intrepid viewers, trendsetters from all over the world. Here I am, Lena Rodriguez, reporting to you from the Roving Suitcase. I think I should rename the channel the Roving Suitcase as I move around. Okay, there are things to celebrate. Bannon got arrested. That poses the question, why is he out? $5 million surety. $5 million's nothing to these guys. You know, everyone's equal before the law. Yeah, right. Not happening. Okay, but it is good news. He has been arrested, and we'll be following up on that. I want to cover today Russia. I've got the Russian card. I want to have a quick look at the UK too, but there's been stirrings in the stock market. Now, regular intrepid viewers will know I'm at great pains to point out to people constantly the stock market is not the economy. The economy everywhere is in the toilet. The stock market everywhere mysteriously, miraculously no less, is going through the roof. So we know there's been shenanigans, but I've heard whispers that insiders are selling, and they're selling high now. So I'm going to have a quick look at the stock market. This is the US stock market, then we're going to move to Russia, then the UK. So other news, of course, is DeJoy said a lot, said nothing, said he won't go further, but will he roll back the evil that he's done? So that should perhaps be the first question. So will there be pressure on DeJoy, hopefully before he resigns, to roll back the damage? Because that's what matters. Will he roll it back? That's the moving of the machines, the post boxes, all that stuff. Will it be rolled back, yes or no? I'm just going to do a quick reveal on this. Empress, thinking about it, not wanting to do it. Revenge, but whose revenge? Okay, the Empress here, I would say, is the post office itself, like the mother of the nation. You know, it's one of those foundational things. Everyone grows up with the post office, even though anyone under 40 now might not have walked into one in their lifetime. It's nonetheless really important, and it gives security like the Earth Mother Empress does. So I think that's the post office itself. This is the evaluation card. Will he or won't he? And this is the question. Have I done enough damage yet? This is how these people think, viewers. This is my first digression. This is how they think. Have I done enough damage? No, I haven't done enough damage yet. I better hang around. Or will I go before they jail my own sorry ass, right? So none of this is about patriotism. The Queen of Wands. This could be Nancy Pelosi. She moves around as a queen. I've had her as the Queen of Swords. I've had her as the Queen of Pentacles. I'm thinking here this is Nancy Pelosi, the no-nonsense Queen of Wands, who wants to see it rolled back. But then the mystery card. The mystery card, this is the impulsive night, the night of revenge and jealousy. But whose revenge, whose jealousy? I want to know more on this card. So the Knight of Swords, I need to clarify. So will the damage be rolled back? Let's just go again. Will the damage be rolled back? Will the damage be rolled back? King of Wands and Death. Strength. Okay, I think it'll go down to the wire. I think this could be Minution in the naughty King of Pentacles identity going up against Nancy. this could be a domestic, so to speak, between Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi. The death card, end of a way of being. So again, this is very cryptic, isn't it? Is it the end of the post office as we know it, or is it the end of the shenanigans and the carrying on? Strength prevails, and a feminine strength prevails. I think he will be forced to roll back what he's done. So, phew, I hope I'm right on that one. So I think they obviously should, but will they? I'd say yes. And it could be because the ACLU and other organisations and individual states are all suing the post office about this. So there's a lot of legal action. We're going to have to stock up on the popcorn in the next couple of years as cases come on stream. You know, there's going to be endless cases. So I think they're going to be made to roll it back, but at the last minute. I think it's going to play out over the next sort of 4 or 6 weeks. I think it's going to go down to the wire. Okay, so I'm going to move to the Russian cards. Now, Belarus. You'd have to be honest and say most of us do not follow the fine print of politics in Belarus, but it's hard to miss the fact that their very own despot, tyrant, dictator has voted himself in again. He miraculously got 80% of the vote, despite the fact that roughly 80% of the people voted against him. So people are in the streets. There's been general strikes. Now, the real problem is what this means for Putin. So Putin has been able to keep the Russian people on board by doing that national narrative I keep talking about as a sociologist. It's the national story will keep people supporting bent politicians for a good 30 or 40 years after their use-by date, because they believe the narrative. And the Russian state's narrative is, we are a great country and we have to keep a lid on these dreadful colonies, which is what they are. They don't use that language. But they colonised Chechnya, they colonised Ukraine, they colonised Belarus, and so it goes on, Crimea. And so the national narrative is, we need all the money in Russia to keep Russia strong. Meanwhile, the oligarchs make a fortune. So people are waking up, and there are protests in Russia. And the momentum is such that, and I put an umbrella over this, allegedly, this is an entertainment channel, so I say again, allegedly, the only opposition leader has been poisoned in mysterious circumstances, and he's now in Germany being treated. Dreadful biohazard drugs that they use routinely on any opposition. So let's have a look. Putin's days, I feel, are numbered. So I've been saying this for 2 years, not a new revelation. So Putin. Oh, I love these cards. Okay. So it's moving right along. Here we have, in the middle, the card of theft. This is thieving from the state so that the now globally famous Russian oligarchs have stolen from the Russian people. This is the traditional Seven of Swords. The card of theft is at the heart of this, absolute heart of it. Behind, this is Putin as a modern day Tsar or Emperor. He's a bit thinner than this figure because, you know, he has to go out doing photo shoots, wrestling bears or whatever he does. But this is in the past. There are now people who are prepared to stand up in the streets, but also this is behind the scenes, looking at what he's doing behind the scenes. I think this is more likely to be very brave lawyers or academics or people behind the scenes who are accumulating actual documents that, should this ever come to trial, they're ready. Things are moving against Putin. The Eight of Swords. Someone's in jail and someone's trying to visit them. Does anyone know what Putin's wife looks like? You know, I've always had suspicions about Putin, but that's neither here nor there. The anti-LGBTQI stuff, all of that is playing out now. A younger generation comes on stream. But back to this big picture Putin, it's not inconceivable he'll be arrested at some point. I mean, he has trillion-dollar yachts and stuff to hide on. He might get away. Or this could be the arrest of someone high up for the first time in a generation. Now, these Russian cards are called the 12-chair deck. And the reason for that was because the state clamped down on any dissent for the last 100 years. Often the only way people could make social and political comment was through theatre. And one of the very famous plays that was written was The 12 Chairs, that people would go to any lengths to find the money, find the jewellery, and they chase it around these chairs. Now here, what's unique about this deck is it has the black card and the white card. And this is like the equivalent, in a way, of the Tower for Putin. It's like he's reached into the chair looking for the jewels. There's no more to be had. He's bled the nation dry. This is, I think, an end game. And the date here is the 29th of October. Now, I'm sure any Russian viewers can tell me if that's a significant political date. It might have been when the revolution started or something. But the 29th of October, i.e. the end of October, I think is going to be a very telling time for Vladimir. Now, before we leave Russia, what is happening in relation to Russia? And I actually believe QAnon has a sort of, nucleus in Russia. I think it was handled by people from the West for the language, but I think it was possibly funded in the early days by Russia. But let's look at Putin and Trump before we leave this. Putin and Trump. Putin and Trump. What's their relationship, Putin and Trump? Oh, Lordy, Lordy. This is trying to get away to a safer place. And the Knight of Wands. This is escape. These two cards are about escape. I think, obviously, Russia would prefer Trump to get in again. That's why they wanted him in the first time, because having such a docile imbecile at the wheel has meant that he managed to starve NATO of funds, to create a lot of tension within NATO. Trump has pulled troops out of everywhere. He's now talking about pulling American troops out of Iraq. So he's done Putin's bidding, but I don't think it's enough. I really don't think it's enough. Five of Pentacles, traditionally the card of loss and disappointment. I think it's the end game here. This doesn't feel like Trump to me. This feels like Putin being investigated. And so it's like so much of this stuff, really, exhausting as it has been, traumatic as it has been, it is now exposed for all to see. So it's like the postal service business. Trump's peaked too early. He's peaked too early. From now on, we'll see this. Putin's much more worried, actually, about himself. Will he step down? I don't think so. I think he'll slink out in the dead of night. Or there's a possibility of arrest. Ooh, there we go. Now, I'm going to have a quick look at the stock market, first globally and then the US. So, globally. 30 million unemployed. Those numbers never reflect the real numbers of people who have already become homeless and don't have an address, of those who've given up trying to ask for benefits, for those who have worked very hard but aren't entitled to benefits. So you could double that figure. You could double that figure. Okay. Oh, while I'm shuffling, the Yeti's latest wandering into epidemiology. I love this when he goes on to public health. So having suggested the hydroxychloroquine because I've got shares in it, having suggested detergent because I'm an idiot, I've come up with a new one, which is oleander extract. Now, I grew up in a tropical state, which we fondly referred to as the deep north because it was a redneck backwater. And you grew up with oleander trees everywhere. And you learnt by the age of 3, as a Queensland child, don't touch the oleanders because they're poisonous. And now you have the Yeti advocating its use. Really? Really? He shouldn't be allowed out in public, let alone be present. He's a danger to all those near it. He really is. Okay, so stock market, global stock market, US. Okay. Global and the US. All right, this is my famous argy-bargy card here, no less. This is a lot of conflict that goes nowhere. See how they're fighting in a circle? So this is discussions at a very high level. This is the titans of global finance. And you know what? They don't know what to do. This is going nowhere. Someone will come up with an idea and they don't want to do it. Right? The hand of God, we could do this, and they don't want to do it. But it's not going to collapse just yet. This is the Lover's card. This is a pact that emerges from this conflict. So in other words, as we speak, they've been working on ideas, and I think it's going to keep going for a little while yet. What would normally happen, of course, is it'll collapse just before or after Biden gets in, and he'll be blamed mysteriously. But I think people are growing up, people are learning, which raises a bigger issue generally, intrepid ones. This is part of a bigger picture. So the US stock market, in the past, here we are, as I described before, the Empress, this was in the good old days because the titans could get rich and the tiny percentage of investors who are mere mortals, like mum and dad investors, as we call them in Australia, and who have their retirement tied up and stuff, it was promising. But now it's looking internationally for going, things aren't going well anywhere. What the hell are we going to do? Right? And then the King of Swords. I think I just heard Jerome Powell. Is he even still around? Why am I thinking Jerome Powell? So I think this is someone who's trying to keep the lid on the collapse of the US. This is a circular nightmare. If the US stock market collapses, the world's going to be sucked into the vortex. If the rest of the world goes under, America's going to be sucked into the vortex. So this is the strong man at the top of somewhere. Couldn't be Wilbur Ross, could it? He hasn't been awake for 25 years. It's some major player locking the door, keeping it nailed down for now. We shall update this. I can't see how it can go past the end of the year, but for now, it's okay. If I had any money, I'd be putting it in gold because that's always the safest, isn't it, really? So, oh, another thing I came across during the week, because there's all these backstories on the post office, how various people have tried to starve the post office, including DeJoy and everyone else who have huge amounts of money in alternative carriers. So there are all these stories. But Susan Collins, God, what a witch. Susan Collins, back in 2005, she pushed a bill. I'm not even sure I believe this, but it's so mad it might be true. So viewers, please, if you know the real story on this, let me know. There was some bill passed back in the day that required the post office, the US Postal Service, to pay up front every year all its outstanding Social Security commitments for retirements, for health and retirements, and it costs them $5.5 billion per year, up to $50 billion for the next 50 years. This is one of the reasons why it always looks as if it's going broke. Is there any truth in that? Could it be that mean and that mad? I'll leave it with you, intrepid viewers. So now the UK, we're overdue for a UK reading. So for those of you who don't understand Brexit and all that it means, the potted version is the same people as destroyed the last American election. That would be Brad Pascal, that would be Cambridge Analytica, the ones that were interacting with Russia in order to get micro-targeting of data and to just fudge the elections. The same people were active in the UK pushing Brexit. So again, playing to the lowest common denominator of xenophobia, of racism, of small-minded, let's go back to the 50s stuff. Let's go back to empire when we were great, when we were the UK, which was really code for England. So all this was pushed. Outright lies. If you vote for Brexit, which meant leaving the EU, we'll have hundreds of millions of pounds every week to pump into the health service. It'll be marvellous. Lies, all lies. In the meantime, what have they done? Having won the referendum, thanks to Cambridge Analytica, they've had 4 years to implement alternative strategies. What have they done? That would be nothing. They have not got a deal on the table. So, to sum up, they're walking away from being in a trade bloc of 27 countries. They've said, no, we want to be on our own. Well, that means what you have to sell costs more because you're not in the bloc anymore. So every one of those 27 countries is going to be very disinterested because they can buy it from the other 26. When you go to the world, like Australia and the US, why would we want to buy British products? Because they're going to cost more than if you've still been with the EU. It is staggeringly, breathtakingly, gobsmackingly, gut-wrenchingly stupid. But away they went, and they've secured 0 deals. So Brexit happens on the 31st of December. So let's have a look. Britain is currently led by Yeti 2, Boris Johnson, who, although he's much smarter than Trump, he still can be stupid, and that's almost worse. He's disinterested and incompetent, so that puts him up there with the Yeti. So what's happening with the UK and Brexit? Yes, well, the world. This is karmic. This is karmic. All right. So here we have it. In the centre, the world. The UK voted to separate itself from the EU and the world is now watching with bated breath how that's going to work in a globalised sphere. So the wreath here, this is the end of a whole cycle of engagement with the world. When Brexit came out, it promised, this is my card of pretend happy families, it said, oh, you little English people are going to be so happy. It's all bulldogs and tea-towels of the Queen, and it's going to be so good. It's going to be just like your grandparents remembered it. Okay. What that means to 26-year-olds, I've got no idea, but that was the promise. So in the past, I think this is literally the Queen. The Queen represented the idea of England, the monarchy and the empire, and that was the emotional base. Just like America Kids itself, the Wild West was, you know, somehow this story of just courageously going through and killing the indigenous people and stealing their land and enslaving African Americans that somehow represented freedom. So people are really good at distorting their national myths, right? So this was the literal Queen, but now what's happening is people are moving away from this idea of England. It's sinking in. After 4 years of mumbo jumbo, it is sinking in. There's no escaping it. This is the karmic card of destiny. The Four of Wands, this is an opportunity. This is bizarre. I've always struggled to see Brexit happen in a psychic sense, even though it's moved inexorably to this date, even though Boris Johnson has signed off that there will be no extension after the 31st. I think they're going to use COVID as an excuse to try and soften the blow or even make a huge compromise with this wedding. I think Brexit is a failure before it kicks in. It is a failure. I think even the Brexit supporters are beginning to realise that. They're going to have to compromise. They're going to have to come up with a new name so it doesn't sound like they're not doing Brexit. But I think there's going to be another huge fudge. Wait till I have a quick look at the Astro cards. Oh, that's weird. So on the one hand, they're looking at a cliff on the 31st because nothing is in place. Suddenly, everything's going to have to come through customs at the border that hasn't. For 42 years, every banana, every box of tissues, every roll of toilet paper, every umbrella, every car, every washing machine has to come through customs. Are they ready? Well, no, they haven't even secured the land yet. They've only got part of the land. They haven't trained the people. They haven't built the quarantine stations. They haven't got the software to process it. Vans are going to be backed up to Marseille, never mind Calais. They're going to be backed up to the south of France. This is crazy. They can't do it. Okay, so let's look at the astrological aspects for Brexit. This could be a gift in disguise. The abject failure of Brexit could be a gift in disguise. Sorry, someone's knocking at the door. I'll just knock this out. Oh, wow. Wow. Now, these are a mix. I very rarely get reversals. But I got Jupiter, the planet of luck and things moving forward. My Jason Momoa card reversed. Then Gemini, would you believe Yeti 1 and Yeti 2 are both Geminis? Now, you know my explanation. I'm not down on Geminis. I love Geminis. But every sign has its primitive mindset and their primitive Geminis. But this is speaking more than them. This is double talk. This is absolute double talk. They've got the rather luscious Virgo, which might come in to save them. The Virgo appears between the hastily arranged shotgun marriage and the compromise. I think they're going to be compromising their little buttocks off, is what I think. So UK viewers, don't despair. Even though there's been all this big talk for 4 years, Brexit or die, it's like the unmasked brigade. I think something's going to be pulled out of the fire at the last minute. I love you guys so much. We will talk again very soon. So bye for now. Ciao, ciao.